from a crypto astrology group CAG member webinar with William Stickevers.
And again, the halving is coming. This is the halving. So right now, 6.25 Bitcoin is produced every 10 minutes worldwide. It's mined. And now we're going to have half of that. So what does that mean? Well, again, and I'm being conservative here, if we just look at, we want to do a price forecast, it comes back to the same thing. I put the 19th here, but if the price of Bitcoin is, let's say 55,000, let's say it goes to 64,000, and then just leading up to the halving event, it retracts back. Now, this is generally common. Just prior to the halving, we see a retraction. So there's like a sell-off. People will be freaking out. Hey, it went to 64,000. Now it's 55. That's fine. Because if it's a 55,000, looking at the level of scarcity, and then you project a year after based on the two prior halving events, we see price increases move up substantially a year after the halving event. So what we saw here, 2016, the Bitcoin halving event, July 9th, with the Bitcoin price being at $650, it moved up 3.87 increase to $2,518 Bitcoin. It surpassed the price of gold, 1 ounce of gold. Then we saw here on May 11, 2020, when the Bitcoin price was only 8,000, it jumped up following 1 year after the halving to 58,000, which was a 6.74%, not percent X. So 6.74X. Notice that if you did 2 times 3.87, that's 6.74. Why? Because of the level of scarcity. No one's looking at scarcity. Demand is almost technically infinite. Now, we know it's not infinite in the literal sense, but the level of demand is infinite relative to the level of supply, and the demand is increasing. And again, if the level of scarcity is increasing exponentially and we have that S curve kicking in, don't forget the S curve. Any basic financial astrologer worth his metal knows an S curve begins around every 11 years, 11 to 14 years during Jupiter-Uranus alignments. That's simple financial astrology. So if we know around the time of the halving is the beginning of the S curve, great. So we're looking here where the Bitcoin price could move theoretically, I'm not saying it's going to hit this number, to 781,000 1 year after. Now, that sounds outrageous. I'm sure some of these money managers here are flipping out saying, you don't know what you're talking about. What I'm getting at here is nobody's talking about $100,000 Bitcoin. Anyone who's thinking like that has been watching MSNBC Financial too much or listening to Squawk Box. Those guys know nothing, right? You'll go broke, or listening to Mr. Money, Jim Cramer. So we're looking here at exponential moves, and let me just lay it out for you here. So the fear of missing out begins in 69 days. That is when we'll see the Bitcoin halving event. So ETFs are purchasing Bitcoin at a rate much higher than the rate at which new Bitcoin is produced. The demand for ETFs alone is so high that even if only ETFs were buying Bitcoin, the situation would still represent a significant excess of demand over supply, more than 4 times greater. The average daily demand for Bitcoin from ETFs is quantified at 10,000 Bitcoin. There's a significant accumulation of Bitcoin by ETFs, with projections showing they could amass over 2 million Bitcoin. It is predicted that the demand from ETFs could exceed 4.3 million Bitcoin by the end of 2025, which is stated as impossible, presumably, because it would be outstripping the available supply. So the available supply is likely to be outstripped, and the overall increased demand from Bitcoin alongside with the diminishing supply is said to suggest an insanely bullish outlook for the price of Bitcoin. So that's why I'm being more bullish than less bullish. If this is an extreme range, which I get, but like, let's go a little extreme here. This is not outside the realm of possibility. 2x from 3.87, 6.74, 2x, 14.21. The level of scarcity and the level of demand is exponentially greater. We have exponential growth when we see the beginning of an S curve. And so therefore, when I look at the Bitcoin logarithmic regression band rainbow, and I go out to October 2025, remember that would be the date around the 8th or 9th of October 2025, when we would see the Bitcoin price peak, then that, looking historically, if we go back here to January 2020, we notice this band here. You take that band, bring it all the way over here, And that's around a $582,000 Bitcoin, which is a bit under the 781,000, but all signs are pointing to a Bitcoin price range where we could see 331,000 to 582,000. And it may go a bit higher, right? It could go a bit higher than that 582,000 and then level off, right? Where we would see it level off at a price range somewhere in this lower band to 188,000 to 331,000. So the evidence is just pouring in. So we're going to see just this really, really take off. And a lot of people talk about, hey, talk more about altcoins, William. Altcoins. That's where you're going to make the money. No, folks, because you're not asking the question every time you think about that altcoin, especially when you think about XRP. If you haven't sold your XRP, you asked me over 2 years ago, hey, I have all this XRP. It's doing nothing. What if they lose the SEC suit? I said, look, Solana, when Solana was 18 cents, right? We talked about Solana being the best alternative to XRP. So the question is, does that altcoin bleed against Bitcoin? And the answer is yes. We have seen Ethereum, which is the king of the altcoins, has been bleeding profusely against Bitcoin. So you look at the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, and when it goes down, that means that Ethereum is losing to Bitcoin. People who've been buying Ethereum instead of Bitcoin have been losing money. And as we could see, people would argue, well, William, if you go back to, let's say April of 2021, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin, right? Well, it did. But when you look at Ethereum Bitcoin, right, the ETH BTC, it has been going down steadily since that time, meaning if you put more money into Bitcoin than Ethereum, you would have done better overall. So in other words, when you have the king of the altcoins going down and bleeding against Bitcoin, it certainly shows that we're certainly not in altcoin season.
Watch the full presentation of this webinar in the Crypto Astrology Group membership at williamstickevers.com or click the link in the description.